I am really honored to have with us today Theodore Shoebat, Ted, son of the former PLO terrorist Walla Shoebat, author of For God or For Tyranny. Now, there's a picture of that book on the screen, those watching on theDove TV. And if you haven't read that, you ought to. It's just a fabulous book. And both father and son are passionate about persecuted Christians around the world, and a subject that we probably could spend a lot of time on, but nobody can tell it more passionately and believable as Ted, as he shares with us today. Hi, Ted. How you doing, my friend?
Good to be on, sir.
Good. God bless you. Merry Christmas, by the way.
Too. Merry Christmas to you, too, sir.
It appears that the persecution of Christians around the world is intensifying. We're hearing stories, seeing video of Christian persecution at levels that I don't know, my concern is, Ted, we're becoming immune to it. We're just kind of letting it's happening somewhere else. But is it growing worse?
It's growing worse every month, and as the years go by, I mean, right now the deaths of Christians by under Muslim hands and other faiths as well has been within the range of the thousands. But give it a number of years, and you will see these numbers grow to the hundreds of thousands, and then eventually it will grow to the millions, because this is how Holocausts evolve. They evolve starting from just hundreds, thousands, 100,000s, millions. As long as the persecutors are given the liberty and the suffrage to do these sort of things, then they will continue on and they will not stop. And the violence will continue to plunge deeper and further into the abyss. And just to give you some examples of recent persecutions that have been going on, we had, for example, in Nigeria, in various villages, Boko Haram, which is a major Islamic terrorist cell in Nigeria, they've massacred over 70 people just in a matter of just within a day, actually. And amongst those murders was actually a 1-year-old boy. They also murdered a number of pregnant women, and they also killed the 90-year-old grandmother. Now, with that said, I also want to talk about Central Africa. Central Africa has not been getting the coverage it deserves, because the Christian persecution there is so disturbing that it needs to be told. For one thing, you have villages that are being utterly annihilated. There are multiple villages in Central Africa which are completely deserted. They've been completely depopulated. And for example, there's a cathedral in Central Africa which has now been sheltering around 30 or 40,000 people and hiding them from the Muslims. Not only that, but you have pregnant women being butchered, infants being butchered. You have, for example, there was one horrifying story of people being fed to crocodiles. There was one story that a woman was killed and her baby was found eaten alive by a boa constrictor. Now, with all of these horrific stories said, there is hope. This is the hope that I want to bring, that Christianity is reviving something that it once had. And that is the spirit of militancy. If you study Christianity and you go from the first 300 or so years of Christianity is pretty much all persecution. But in the year 312, something happens. Christianity infiltrates the government. Constantine becomes the first Christian emperor, and you have a war between the Christian emperor Constantine and the pagans, the pagan Emperor Maxentius. Then after that, a little bit later, you have a war between the Christian army of Constantine, with the cross being advanced as the armies go, as the Christian ranks go, fighting against the pagan tyrant Licentius. And as you go down the road, you find a myriad of wars between Christians and pagans, Christians and Zoroastrians, Persian Zoroastrians. Let's not forget the Crusade of Vahak, or Vahan, or the Armenian Church, how they rose up to fight against the Zoroastrians in war, to fight persecution. And then you also have the Crusades, the Christian Church versus the Islamic Mosque, the cross versus the crescent. Now, this spirit of Christianity, which is alive, has been was put to sleep really by the Enlightenment. But because of persecution, it is reviving. In Central Africa, there is a major Christian militia called the Anti-Balaka, which means in English, literally, the anti-sword or the anti-machete, the militia against the sword. Mm. And the violence between Christians and Muslims have become so intense. France has sent around 1,000 troops into Central Africa very recently. Not only that, but the UN is getting involved in this. It's going to, if it continues on the way it's continuing right now, mark my words, it's going to commence into a major civil war. Because right now, the carnage is great.
A couple things I just want to point out here. We read recently, just earlier in November, North Korea executed people in 7 different stadiums on the same day, some for just having a Bible. We know that the pastor in Iran, even though with all the negotiations over nuclear armament, that pastor was shipped off to a camp where people don't even appear again. These are some of the ones that are in the news and are big, but what region seems to be having the most Christian persecution? Is it the Middle East?
No, the most Christian persecution is taking place in Nigeria, out of all places. Wow. And that leads me to another very important fact that is happening right now. The violence in the jihadism in in Africa is so violent and is so immense that the nation of Angola, and I know people are denying this, but when you look at the recent reports that have come out, the nation of Angola, they're closing down mosques. And at first, I wrote an article about this, and it went viral. And there were people out there who were denying it, saying, oh, no, Angola isn't doing anything. And then you look at the recent reports that have come out on Reuters recently, just a couple days ago. Angola has admitted that they are now closing down mosques. And there was actually a very reputable journalist from Angola who recently wrote that it is true what's taking place, and he has seen the memos that the Angolan government is giving to these mosques saying, listen, you have 72 hours to close down the mosque or we're going to bulldoze it. And people say, oh my goodness, this is so horrific. You know, you have Muslims in England who are now protesting, and you have some liberals who are saying, well, this is intolerant. Listen, this is the only way you're going to get rid of the problem. And if Christians out there want to say that, oh, this is not biblical, listen, like I said, look at the history of Christianity. Look at the history. Look at the Battle of Lepanto, where you had an entire naval army on an ocean forming the actual structure of a crucifix, fighting against the Muslims who formed the literal structure of a crescent. It was the crescent fighting against the cross, a battle between the cross versus the crescent. And as Gideon took down the crescent idols of Zeba and Zalmunna, so is the church obligated as well to take down the crescent idols of Islam.
All right, let me ask you this, Ted, because we're going to run out of time here. It appears at this point that the policy and philosophy of the current administration in the White House seems to be more abetting those who would persecute Christians than who would be in defending Christians. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I will definitely comment on that. For one thing, we know for a fact that the U.S. has been giving weapons for years now. Semi-automatic. Now they're openly giving very deadly, lethal automatic weapons to the Syrian rebels. The Syrian rebels, the FSA, butchered over 40 Christians in the village of Sadak. They butchered a myriad of other Christians in the city of Malula. They've butchered over 1,000 Christians so far. And those are only the recorded murders. We know there's others that have never been recorded. They killed a Christian and burnt a crucifix on his face. Not only this, but you have in America the same people who are supporting the states punishing Christians for going against the homosexual agenda are the same people who would support giving weapons to the rebels in Syria who are now killing Christians. Oh. And you look at the nation of Russia, what the nation of Russia is doing. Russia has officially said mosques will no longer be built in Russia. They recently banned a particular translation of the Quran. In the future, as this persecution intensifies, you are going to be seeing a sift, really, a breaking point between the true Christians who want to fight against Islam and the false Christians who are going to say, well, let's all just get along.
Okay.
And that's what it's going to end up into.
Ted, you're inspiring. How do people correspond with you and connect with you?
You can go to shoebat.com, shoebat.com, and we have contact information there. You can send us an email directly through that website.
All right. Well, keep me informed and all of us informed on this persecution.
Definitely.
Because, we just came through Thanksgiving, and I'm wondering, do we give thanks for what we have? I mean, let's face it, we're taking so many things for granted while some of our brothers and sisters are dying for their faith.
Absolutely. Also, don't forget rescuechristians.org. Rescuechristians.org. Go to that website. Give what you can, $5, $10, it doesn't matter. All the money that is given goes directly to supporting the persecuted in Pakistan, all of it.
All right. Thank you, Ted.
RescueChristians.org. God bless.
All right. God bless, and best to you and your dad. Say hi to your dad for us.
You too, I will. Thank you.
God bless. All right. We'll be right back.